Welcome to Lotus Me Bloom podcast. This is your host, Madison Ansel, and in this podcast, I talk a lot about spirituality, self-development, things I've learned, and so much more. So if you're into that type of stuff, then you found the right podcast. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. So today's episode is about people pleasing and how it's really not good for you. I feel like we have, as a society, and even in spirituality, for most of us, have been very much ingrained to take the high road, be the bigger person, and basically take other people's shit because it's not worth it. And, you know, it doesn't deserve your energy and all of that stuff. I feel, at least for me, that has been my life, is always being the bigger person and taking the high road and letting shit go because that's the right thing to do. And if you want to take it into like spiritual terms and like especially religion, oh my gosh. And so I'm not super religious, okay? I am very spiritual. So if you are religious, just hear me out. But they push this like narrative of like God wants you to love everyone and be kind to everyone and yada, yada, yada. Take the high road, you know? And although I do believe that, for sure, I do believe God wants us to be kind to each other and everything else, but God also doesn't want us disrespecting ourselves. And I believe that people pleasing does more damage than it does good a lot of the times. And trust me, there's been so many situations where I did take the high road, and I do think that it worked out in my favor. And I do feel like there are some things that aren't worth your energy and are not worth your, honestly, voice, you know? But there are times I feel like people pleasing can be so damaging, and let's talk about it. Because, you know, once again, just because I'm not religious, I still respect and see all perspectives, and I don't think that it's healthy to just keep taking people's shit. And I do feel like with Christianity, it is very much promoted of like, just be the bigger person, God will see your effort and all this stuff, and I do believe that. But at some point, are you just getting walked all over? Are you having like no boundaries whatsoever? Like, are you being taken advantage of? You need to find the balance, you know? You need to find the balance of, you can be a good person and, you know, keep doing God's work in a way and keep having an open heart and being accepting and being understanding, but also like you need to have the boundaries and respect for yourself to let someone know, hey, that's not okay. Because here's the thing. There's karma, okay? I definitely believe in that. And even if you've taken the high road at some point in your life and you wish you didn't, that person got whatever they had coming. Trust me on that. But at the same time, sometimes I'm not saying we should be the karma, but kind of in a sense, like sometimes us saying something to someone is what God wants us to like help them process and help them learn their lesson in that way. You know, I'm not saying we need to teach them a lesson, but sometimes you just voicing up and being like, hey, that was super rude what you just said, like that's not okay. They might have just not been aware of it, and it might have been super innocent of them to say something in a off-putting way or whatever, and you just bringing awareness to them, it's all they needed, you know? So yeah, let's dive into it. And I don't want to get like super religious and like woo woo on that. Like, I just wanted to share that perspective because I know people around me that are very religious, and sometimes I'm like, okay, like that's great, but like you can't keep letting people treat you like this too. So yeah, I for sure, like growing up, it heard the like, oh, just take the high road, be the bigger person. Like, it's not worth it. And I found myself becoming very much a people pleaser, like doing little things or like not saying enough and having that anxiety of like other people's emotions. And I had to really work on my throat chakra. When I got into spirituality, that was the first chakra that was so blocked for me, was my throat. I could not like stick up for myself. And if I did, it was really hard. And I'm still like working through all of this, by the way. Like, I don't fully like believe I was like 100% a people pleaser, because I have always had the side of myself that has been blunt and has, you know, put my foot down and, you know, not let people run all over me. Definitely not. But there are some situations that I have found myself in where I'm like having those people pleasing mentality, where it's the little stuff. It's the little stuff. Like, if you madly disrespect me, best believe I'm going to be disrespectful right back. Okay. Like, I have that in me. Like, if you really cross that fucking line, but I found myself being a people pleaser in the sense of the little shit that's like not that big of a deal, but like, it's also like not okay. You know, even like in an old situation, like I found myself just dipping instead of like holding my ground. But like, you have to also weigh out whatever situation you're in. Like, there are some situations where like, no matter what you say, whatever, it's just not going to be good. It's not going to end well. You know, it's not going to be like, you know, it's just not worth your time. Like, I definitely feel like there are times in your life where being a bigger person and just like taking the high road is good. It's a good thing. But at what point does that get fucking exhausting? And that's where I got to, and that's where I am now. So like, I used to be pretty blunt as a kid, and I feel like at some point like that wasn't okay for me to be. It wasn't like I was bluntly mean, but like as a kid I would just state the obvious, or like if I heard something that someone else said, I'd be like, hey, like, that's what, you know, as kids do. We just don't, you know, think about things and how that affects people. And like I said, there's some things that like I didn't see any wrongdoing. So I feel like that kind of made me close up my throat chakra, because it was like not okay to do. And I have like very distinct memories of like my parents kind of bringing me in at like 7 years old and being like, hey, we heard you said this and you can't say that. So yeah, I feel like, you know, it runs in the family for sure too. And I was always the one that was like a little bit more defiant in that area. Like, I did kind of let people know how I felt about them. And I had that, you know, roughness to me, I guess, where they would be like, whoa, I would never say that. Like, oh my God, you can't do that. Like, they always kind of made me feel bad for like maybe telling someone off or whatever. But I found myself, like I said, being a people pleaser in the sense of like little shit. Like, you know, maybe someone making like a comment to me at work or something where I'm like, that's not really cool, but whatever, I'll let it go, I'll let it slide, you know, nothing too like drastic, or like just lacking boundaries. And that's what being a people pleaser is you lack boundaries. You lack boundaries of saying, no, I don't want to do this. Like, it's like, you know, when someone's like, hey, you want to go shopping? And you don't really want to go fucking shopping, but you don't want to make them upset and say no. So you go shopping, even though you knew that you wanted to work on your podcast today. That's my people pleasing shit. Like, that's where I have a struggle with that. That's where sometimes I like was relieved that I don't have like a lot of friends to hang out with, because I don't want to tell them no. And I remember like I had a friend that would always just like say, no, I don't want to go. And I used to like admire her for that, because I was like, damn, I wish I could just say, no, I don't want to go, or no, I'm going to stay home, period. You know, I always was that person that was like, I got to make up an excuse. Like, what can I say? Like, over explaining. And that also is like not good for the throat chakra. Okay. Your throat chakra can be open, but if you're over explaining everything, that's not good either, because you need to just know that whatever reason you don't want to go is like enough. And honestly, no is enough. You don't need to like explain, oh, you know, my mom needs my car and my grandma needs picked up, so my mom's taking my car. You know, like, just no. No's enough. No is enough. And so that's something that's like my people pleasing stuff, where, you know, I want to be there for everyone. I don't want to say no. I want to do all the things. And I also have a little bit of like FOMO that I suffer with, but like I have a hard time saying no to people and letting them know, like, no, I don't like that. No, we're like, you know, just having those boundaries is basically what I'm saying. And when you lack boundaries for yourself, you lack respect for yourself. And that's where it's damaging. Someone saying something to you and you don't say anything about it makes it okay for them to continue to do it. You are setting those boundaries. And if you aren't like physically saying, hey, I'm not cool with that, what boundary are they crossing? Because when it happens again, they're going to be like, well, you never said anything. Like, I've done this before, and now you want to say something. And that's when the grudges happen and you start to get bitter and resentful. And I know for me personally, like, even in friendships, I would have a hard time voicing that something upset me. And how were they supposed to know that it upset me? So I just pushed it down and pushed it down. And then like, that's when you do get into like those arguments and like that list of like, you did this to me, this to me, this to me, this to me. And they're going to be like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, I didn't know like you were upset about that. And I'm not going to lie, I'm so guilty of this. Like, I have been really working on my friendship wounding and my sisterhood wounding. And, you know, even with women, my relationship with women in the past was not the best. I had friends that when I did speak up and I did say things that bothered me, it turned into something bigger than what it was, and it was flipped back on me, and from a very young age. So I think that just kind of set the foundation of how my relationships with women were, like, and friends. I never said anything. And I have had, you know, even friendships with guys that I'm like, hey, you did this and it hurt my feelings. And then it's like kind of like being gaslit, you know? So that stuff I'm currently working on and like trying to be better with it, you know, with friendships going forward, that, hey, that hurt my feelings when you said that, trying to be more vocal. Because like I said, in the past, things had happened where I didn't want to do that. And I didn't want to speak up. I didn't want to hurt the relationship. But honestly, that's what it ended up being, is that I would get resentful. I would get bitter. And I would literally like remember every fucking thing this person did to me. September 4th, you said this. You know, all this stuff. Like, I am very much like that, and I am not proud of it, but like, I don't know, I blame my Taurus and Scorpio placements. But yeah, like, I would get very resentful and bitter, and it's my own fault. And truly, like, I have attracted women in my life that I kept having the same pattern of just really crappy people that I kept attracting. And like friends, but like not friends, you know, like girls that wanted to be my friend but low key fucking hate me, and like I can feel it like all through my body, the energy they have towards me. Like I would just always attract to this friend that was like not genuinely happy for me, and I had to like really sit and like work through that, because I'm like, why am I attracting this? And truly, I think one of the biggest reasons why I kept attracting this friend, and a friend eventually turned to like coworker, was because I couldn't fucking just say what I wanted to say. I couldn't just say, you know, hey, that's not cool. I'm not cool with that. Like, whatever. Because I always would attract the other person being very, very like opposite of me, like being very aggressive. And very almost threatening in nature, to the point where I just was like, I don't even want to poke that bear. I don't even want to set a boundary, because this person obviously has none. And I do feel like there are some people that it's like, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, it doesn't fucking matter, because like they are just so unhealed within themselves that they're always going to see you as a problem, because there's so many fucking people that like can't just have accountability for their actions. But sometimes it's just like a lesson for you to set that boundary, even if it does cause a little ruckus in your life, you know? And that's why I do feel like that was a lesson for me. I do feel like I completed it in my own way. You know, it can be even a boundary of like social media, you know, and I've talked about this on some of my other episodes of just like, you don't need to follow everyone, you know, like it's okay to block someone. And what I'm learning through like getting over the people pleasing stuff is to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And so I want to talk a little bit about the villain era that was kind of a popular thing on TikTok. And I don't really love like any of those like big terms that people are using. Like I think it's a little like cheesy, but basically what the villain era is to me is, you know, you're okay with being the villain in someone's story. Like that's what it is in general. But like you don't have to be a villain necessarily. You know, I know that there are people that have their own ideas of me and they think I'm a shitty person, or maybe something I did like to them was like their interpretation of me being a villain in their story. And to me, like what the villain era is just basically being comfortable with people having their own preconceived idea of who you are and just letting it be, you know, like not caring that someone might dislike you or someone might think you're a dick. Because honestly, who you are in your day-to-day life and the people that you're around is what matters the most. You know, if you know you're not a shitty fucking person and someone on social media that you've never met or talked to thinks that, then who fucking cares? Like, stop caring so much is how I'm using that term. I think the villain era is basically just being comfortable, being uncomfortable with how you're perceived, because everyone has a different version of you in their head. And I had a TikTok on this. I don't know if I ever posted it, but like so many people can look at you in different ways. Some people might think you're a saint, you're an angel, you never do anything to hurt anyone. Some people might think you're a fucking bitch. Some people think you're stuck up. Some people might think that you're trashy. Like I've literally had all these different like things be told to me before. Like people have said like, oh, you're so like like, you know, you act trashy or whatever. And then some people are like, oh, you're so stuck up, you think you're better than everyone. Like literally the duality and the contrast of so many different opinions. Some people think like, oh, you're so fucking funny and you're so nice. And like some people are like, you're such a bitch. And it's like, it's exhausting to try to, convince those people to see or think otherwise. There was a time in my life, like freshly out of high school, that I tried so hard. Like it was a group of guys actually that were really mean to me. And they just had these ideas made up of me. Like it did not matter how I tried to show them, like, I am a nice person. Like, I'm not this, like, person you're, seeing me as. Because, guys would be like, oh, you dress like this, you're a hoe. Which, fuck that. Like, this is what I'm talking about. This is when I had no, like, confidence really in myself. Like, I portrayed a lot of confidence and, like, I had it together and I didn't give a fuck what anyone thought of me. But like truly, I just wanted, I don't know, I wanted to be accepted. And so through high school, I had a lot of people like just have ideas of me and think I was a bitch and like, just go off of what someone else would say and never actually get the time to like know me. I had a class with this guy that was very I don't even know the word. He caused a lot of trauma in my life. I had like a 2-hour class with him and he made my life a living fucking hell my freshman year because I wasn't the type that was just like gonna let someone run all over me. But I got to the point where like I wanted to be accepted and liked, and I honestly just I wanted to like have an easy experience because I had a 2-hour class with him and his friends and like it was literally hell for me. It was fucking hell. Like I would dread it so badly. And at the time, I also had my ex in this class. So like it was a very, very uncomfortable time for me in this period. And so I literally would do anything for them to just see that like I'm funny and I'm nice and like whatever, I'm cool. And they would say like when I would warm up, they'd be like, oh, Madison's actually really cool. Da, 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 da. They ended up liking me. But I was so fucking uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. Like some of the stuff that they would say or do, like I would let it happen because like I just didn't want them to hate me and like make my life fucking worse than they already did because it was a very traumatic time in my life. And so I had no boundaries. I literally let them say or do whatever, or make, I changed who I was, basically is what I'm saying. I changed who I was so that they could see that I truly wasn't what they thought I was. And so I kept trying because I kept having issues with these people like throughout high school and stuff. And I kept just trying to like, convince them. And that's where my people pleasing, I think, really started to like come in, was with like high school trauma stuff, because there was a part of me that was like very strong and very like, fuck you, I don't give a fuck what you think about me. But also it was like some stuff you have to do like survival. And like that's honestly, as dramatic as that sounds, like I was trying to survive. I was trying to fucking get through. Like I was drowning mentally and I was just trying to get through. And so I, threw every boundary and, out the window. And so that's where I think it is so fucking damaging, because I found myself carrying those with me through jobs and friendships and different areas. Like I really got challenged as a teen and my friendships and just people I went to school with. So that's where I'm like trying to undo is, that's not okay. No, actually, I don't want to do that. Even, with people I love, I'm like, my mom asked me earlier, like, you want to go to movies? And I was like, I have this nudge in me where I'm like, I want to say yes. But here's what I always tell you guys is like, if it feels like a no in your body, like it feels in your body, like, oh, I don't want to, but like you have that like, oh, you should do it. You should do it. That's when you just shouldn't do it. And so I'm trying to listen to my body and what it needs. And so that's where I did kind of like the villain era thing that was going around, just because, accepting that everyone has a different version of you in their head, whether that's good or bad, and just allowing it to just be, and like being okay with someone not liking you and being comfortable in that uncomfortable feeling that there might be someone that fucking hates your guts, and there might be someone that, thinks you're a totally awful person, or there might be someone that sees your content and thinks it's fucking awful and leaves a really bad comment on it. Like I've gotten so much hate over the years on like my YouTube, and like people calling me fat and like whatever. And I got to a point, even for myself, like with the throat chakra stuff, not speaking up. And when I talk about speaking up, it's not even necessarily like me saying like, hey, that hurt my feelings. It got to the point where like I didn't even want to share who I was or share what I thought. And I still like have a little bit of that. Like I still get nervous when I post something on my story or whatever, and it might not be like what other people, agree with. It can be something dumb. Like I could say, man, I really hate Applebee's, and like people getting upset about that would make me extremely uncomfortable, and I would delete the post. Like because of the trauma that I've had from like other experiences online where I have put myself out there and said how I feel, and it's not accepted and people come at me for it. So it's like I have that conditioning, through childhood and stuff too as well. Like, my family always said like, just be the bigger person, take the high road, whatever. And I do feel like there are circumstances where that is great. There are some people who don't deserve your fucking energy whatsoever. Like don't even give them the time of fucking day. But sometimes it's like necessary, because then you're always wondering like, oh, well, what if, I would have said that, or like, I wish I would have said that. Like you ever get like that where you come home and you replay the situation. You're like, man, I wish I would have fucking told him off. Da, 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 da. Sometimes it's fucking worth it. And like, that's where I'm trying to get to, that I wouldn't mind just fucking telling people how the fuck it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to get to the point where I'm comfortable being a villain, quote unquote, and being the bad guy, if that's how they perceive me. But here's the thing, like, people pleasing, people like pick up on that shit. And if they are, narcissistic or fucking an asshole, they take advantage of that. And you having no boundaries is such a lack of respect for yourself. And it shows people how to treat you. So you need to treat yourself with respect by putting those boundaries and like letting people know like, hey, that's not fucking cool. Or actually, this is how I think. Even like just expressing yourself and like expressing how you feel about something. It doesn't even have to be like an argument, or like, it doesn't have to be aggressive. It could just be like assertive. And I'm working on that. I've been working on being assertive. But also it could just be like a different opinion. Them saying, hey, I really like chocolate ice cream. And you being like, that's fine, but I really like mint chocolate chip. Like, I know that's such a child example, but like, you just voicing your opinion and speaking up is a form of, I think, recovering from being a people pleaser. And I think why it's also so damaging is because you're going to pass those traits down to, your family if you have kids, and you don't want them to like not respect themselves and stand up for themselves and feel like their opinion isn't worth anything, because that's how I have felt. And, it's not fucking healthy to sit and say like, oh, my opinion doesn't matter, or like how I feel doesn't matter, because it is so like damaging for someone to like come at you, say some shit to you, say shit about you, and you don't say a damn thing. Like I have, like I said, taken the high road on a lot of things, and sometimes it's like I found myself being more beat up by like me not fucking saying my piece and me not saying what I feel. And it's not a bad thing to just express your side of things or to share your side of things. Like I said, sometimes it's like not worth the energy, or that's just what they want. They want to feed into it. But like, it almost is hurting yourself. It is hurting yourself. It's not almost, it is hurting yourself by like not saying your piece and not saying your truth, because you're not honoring yourself. You're not honoring your opinion, and your opinion and your feelings fucking matter. And that's what like the whole people pleasing shit is all about, is like stuffing how you feel down to make the other people feel comfortable. And like, that's what I've been trying to work with here lately too, is that you have to stop watering yourself down to make other people feel comfortable. And that's truly like what fucking people pleasing is too, is like making yourself small to make other people feel fucking comfortable. And I'm so over that. I'm so fucking over it. So how I started to like recover from people pleasing is to be more mindful of even the little things I say. When you're at the store or at work and like you kind of get in front of someone, you're like that automatic sorry. I have become aware of that. Like, why am I saying sorry? There's no reason for me to say sorry. I did not do anything. Those little things we do, like I do it all the time at work, when I'm like serving, I'm like, oh, sorry. Like, no, I'm not saying sorry. I didn't fucking do anything. Like, I didn't get in your way. Like that stuff right there, like that little like quick things that we don't pick up on, that's people pleasing. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. Da, da, da. Like, no, I found myself, it was 2 years ago. I got in a car accident. This woman hit me. And I found myself saying fucking sorry. And I was pissed about it. I'm like, why am I saying sorry to this girl? She hit me, and she was acting like I was the fucking problem. And it was like head on. Like she didn't see me. So it wasn't like she rear-ended me. No, she clearly did not see me. And I found myself saying fucking sorry. And it's like that programming is what I'm trying to undo for myself. And just becoming aware of those like little things you do and do say, even if it's uncomfortable. Like I just was uncomfortable in this situation. So I said sorry. And, trying to find out, where does that discomfort come from? Like, is it maybe because of childhood you had to like be like that to soothe your caretakers or whatever? Like, there's a reason it all started, and maybe it's because you just don't want people to be mad at you. But why does it matter so much if they are mad at you? Like trying to like analyze those thoughts and those feelings of like, well, why do I even care? And so that's why I do kind of like the villain era like shit, like without the actual like, I feel like it's cheesy. I like, all that stuff that they come up with is just like the same shit, just a different word and making it look cute or fancy, whatever. But like the villain era is basically just not giving a fuck. Like that's how I look at it. It's like not giving a fuck and being unbothered, to the sense of like, oh, if you are mad at me, whatever. And even for me too, like I am that person. I overanalyze everything. I do have anxiety, and I think that's where people pleasing comes from too. And anxiety are almost the same thing, because you're constantly like overanalyzing, what did I say? Like, did it come off this way? Like, did I upset them? You're trying to feel out the emotions, and sometimes like through childhood or adolescent years, you had to be that way to survive. And like, so getting out of that survival mode. But I have tried to catch myself, like, stop caring so much. Because I used to be that person that was like, oh my God, did I say that in like a shitty way? Like, was that mean? Did that come off wrong? I find myself doing that even with content I make. Like, if I make a TikTok, I'm like, oh my God, did I come off like a bitch? Or like, how are they going to be perceived? Like, I'm always overanalyzing like how I'm being perceived by how I said something or like whatever. And so what I have started to do, and I think I shared this on my social media episode about so what? When I start to feel like I'm overanalyzing and worrying about how I came across, I've been trying to step back and just say, so what? So what if they think I came off like a bitch? Like, so what? What is it going to matter? I can't change how they perceived me. And so what? Like, it just lets it go, It lets it be lighter on you, and just, you realize that you can't do anything about it. And like, it's out of your control. You can't control how people perceive you. And the thing is, even if 1,000 people think you're a great person, there's going to be that one that, thinks you're crappy. Like, you just can't make everyone happy. You can't be liked by everyone. And like, that's just something you have to try to like be aware of and just kind of let go of. You have to let go of like that feeling of like, oh, I just want people to like me, or I just want to be accepted, or whatever. Where did this come from? Why am I doing this? And just kind of step back and be like, you know what, so what? Because it's so exhausting to constantly think about how you're being perceived. Like, how did you say it? Could you have said it differently? Like, there's so many people that don't even fucking think that way. There's so many people that don't give a fuck. So why are you sitting here wasting your energy worrying about how you were perceived and how you came off when they don't give a shit how they came off? There's people that are complete dicks, and they're 100% okay with that. And you know what? Kudos to them, because sometimes I wish I could be more like that. And yes, I think a lot of people pleasers do care a lot. And I think that's a great quality to have. But also, it's like, at what point is it too much, and is it damaging? I think that you need to have boundaries for yourself, whether, you can start off small, like just saying, no, I don't want to go, or just saying no when you want to say no, being honest with your friendships. And honestly, it's whatever. If you want to let some shit go from some stranger you saw that made a nasty ass face at you or whatever at the store or whatever, cool. I'm not saying get in arguments and be, aggressive and whatever, but like, especially when it comes to your friendships and your relationships, that's like the most important. You sharing how you feel, and you speaking up when things do bother you, and you speaking up when you don't want to go do something, and putting yourself first is truly like how I have started to heal a lot of this too, is like, do I actually want to do this, or am I doing it because I want to make this person happy? Like, life is also short, so I just don't feel like you should spend it doing things that don't really bring you joy or happiness. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about how people pleasing is actually really damaging. And I know it's like so pushed upon us of like being the bigger person, whatever. Like, fuck that. Like, fuck being the bigger person sometimes. Like, some people need to fucking hear what you have to say, and some people need to be put the fuck in their place. Some people need to be checked. Like, a lot of people don't have accountability and don't have awareness of their actions. And so I believe that some people just need to, get what's coming to them. And if that's you, then so be it. I just don't feel like it's a healthy thing to constantly push down how you feel to make other people comfortable and other people happy. And like I said, there's been situations in the past, I definitely don't feel like me speaking up would have made anything better. I think it definitely would have like caused a lot more issues. So you have to choose. You have to pick your battles. There's some things I think blow up in our face for a reason, because, we didn't see the lesson there, or we didn't put the boundary down, and we can move on and hopefully it doesn't happen again. But, there are a lot of things, especially in your own personal relationships, that you need to stop doing. Like, stop quieting yourself, stop closing your throat chakra to make other people happy, and just like be okay with people not fucking liking you. And people, having different ideas of who you are. And like, at the end of the day, no one knows you except for you, like 100%. So, I do kind of like the idea of like stepping into your villain era, because like, yeah, be unbothered. Step back and just like stop worrying about what you said and how it came across, and like just be like, so what? And so that's kind of like how I've been healing it in my own life, and trying to catch myself saying like sorry when I don't need to say sorry, and voicing how I do feel, and not doing things when I don't actually want to do them. It's those little things. And I think it is very important, not just for you, but like, you don't want to push, if you do plan on having children, you don't want to push that on to them. And I think it's a very inauthentic relationship if you're constantly pushing down who you are and how you feel to make someone else happy. Like, that's such a, it gives me the ick. It gives me the ick to, I would never want to be like in a romantic relationship with someone that is constantly like hiding how they feel or what they want. And I think it's just, I don't know, it's not attractive to me. And so those qualities in myself, I don't want to keep perpetuating and letting that be who I am. So like, I don't say I'm a people pleaser. If I do, I say I'm a recovering people pleaser. And people pleasing looks different to everyone. You might be really good at saying, no, I don't want to do that, but like have a really hard time speaking up, So I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it because I feel like it's so pushed on us growing up and like in society to just be the bigger person. And like, sometimes it's just like, fuck that, Some things need to be hashed out. And even if it's going to turn into an argument, whatever, it doesn't have to be, but like, sometimes it's fucking worth it for your own mental health, because then you're not sitting there wondering like, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. And also like, respect yourself. You're worth being heard, and your opinion and feelings fucking matter. Like, why should they have their say and you not say anything at all? Like, that shit like eats me up inside. Like, some of the stuff that I've just like let go and not said anything, shit eats me the fuck up. Eats me up. And so it has like ruined some of my friendships in the past. Like, if I was to just be like 100% about, hey, like, this is how this made me feel, maybe things would have went differently. I do believe everything happens for a reason, but there's even been situations where like I never voiced how I felt, and then years later we talked about it and it wasn't even like that serious, you know what I'm saying? Like, or how I perceived it wasn't even what it was, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I think it's so fucking important. So if you are someone that has these qualities, and you are trying to work through them, I highly encourage you to do so. And I'm sure there are books and everything else on this, but I just think it's so fucking, it's so exhausting to be a people pleaser and to lack those boundaries for yourself. It's so fucking damaging, and it's not good in the long run. So even though you may feel like you're keeping the peace, you're not keeping the peace within yourself. And the peace within yourself is the most important piece that you should have. And sometimes it's just like, fuck them, fuck them. Who fucking cares? Like, some people just deserve to fucking be cussed the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? Some people deserve to be cussed the fuck out. And that's how I feel. So yeah, that's my little spiel. That's my little rant on people pleasing and my own experience. If you guys have any similar experiences, leave them in the comments below on YouTube. Check out my website, lotusmebloom.com, if you want crystals and candles. All my stuff will be linked in below if you want to follow me on my personal stuff at Madison Ansel. And if you're on Spotify or Apple, wherever you can rate, please leave a 5-star. I appreciate you. But I will let you guys go and talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.